Welcome to the Hired Not Fired podcast, brought to you by The Real Me, the soft skills first talent solution that helps employers hire entry-level employees with better developed soft skills, such as communication, problem solving, or emotional intelligence. Join us as we sit down with hiring managers, talent leaders, and others and get insider tips to help Gen Z stand out and get hired. Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome to the new episode of Hired Not Fired. I have a special guest here with us today. Dr. Patty Stewart has worked in faculty development and instructional technology at Michigan State University since 2003. In her current role, she directs a team of educators who work to build community and teach how to engage in difficult conversations. Patty earned her PhD in Educational Administration and an MA in Telecommunications, Information, and Media Studies from MSU. Welcome, Patty.
Thank you so much, Deb. I'm really happy for the opportunity to be here.
I am really excited to have you here. This is a new type of episode for us. Other episodes, we've heard from talent acquisition leaders and hiring managers what they're looking for. And one of the things that comes up a lot is communication skills. We talk about, well, how do they get noticed? How do you choose who to call in for an interview? And they're all talking about the importance of networking. And in our conversations with new grads or students looking to get that internship, the questions always revolve, well, how do I network? What if you're shy? And that sort of thing. And so I am so glad that you are going to come here and give us some practical advice on how to network, how to start those conversations. So thank you very much for being here.
You're very welcome.
So for this first episode, and we're going to have you come back for more, but for this first episode, I thought we'd focus on what to say, how to avoid sounding awkward and or transactional, right? Like, what can you do for me right off the bat? Most people think networking is about impressing, right? But it's actually about connection, curiosity, and clarity. So my first question for you is, when you teach networking skills, what's the biggest misconception that people have about what networking conversations are supposed to be?
I think the one that I've always struggled with and had to overcome is the idea that you have to be an extrovert to be good at networking. If you'd talked to my 18-year-old self and told me this is what I'd be doing today, I would have never said in a million years. So I always felt that extroverted people had this so much easier. But it really is, just like you said, getting to know people. What kind of questions do you ask? And I think the first and maybe the most obvious is ask open-ended questions. So if you're asking kind of yes or no questions, or
that doesn't
struggling
really
with,
further the conversation, right?
no, I mean, people can say yes or they can say no, and then you're standing there awkwardly kind of waiting. The thing I've found is people love to talk about themselves. So if you ask them questions that are more targeted towards, if you're in a professional setting, you could ask something like, what brought you to this field? Or have you always wanted to be an architect or whatever you happen to be? So ask questions about them and their interest in the field as it relates to the industry or the context with which you're talking to them.
I think that's a great starter question, because not only does it get the ball rolling, and like you said, it's easier to talk about themselves, but you also learn how people get into their fields. And I think that's valuable, especially for new grads who think, oh, I have to have it all figured out before I graduate. And that's not the case. And when you actually start talking to these people and you hear their stories, you learn that. So that's a great opening question. What's another good question opener?
Maybe asking about trends you see that are shaping the industry or the community that you're engaging with. I think also asking people what change would they like to see. There are lots of different areas of industry and even community development where people are really thinking about how to impact change. And so asking someone how they would like to impact change could start a whole long conversation about what they're passionate about, where they see opportunities to grow and learn more.
Now, What about when they talk about themselves? How should early career professionals, and will include also students looking for internships, how should they talk about themselves in a way that is clear and confident and not rambling or self focused?
One of the tips that I was given early in my career was think about an elevator pitch. What is a couple of sentences you could say about yourself that are, above all, mostly true? Like you can speak confidently about. I think if you're so busy trying to be someone else, you lose that human connection that brings folks together.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that that follows on another message we hear a lot from the talent acquisition folks is they're looking for authenticity, right? They
Absolutely.
don't want the answer you think they want to hear. They want to hear what makes you unique, what makes you special, and why you're the best fit for that job. So, what about listening? What does a good listener look like in a networking situation? How does how they listen maybe impact how they're perceived?
So there's a funny clip going around YouTube that we've actually used in some of our training sessions where it's kind of an over exaggerated group of friends talking, and everybody's kind of waiting for their chance to say the thing that they want to say. And it's hilarious because it's so true. I think sometimes we're not often taught how to listen well. And if we're listening to respond, then we're listening differently than we are listening to understand. So paying attention to someone's body language, engaging with them on, maybe that what you're talking about is comfortable for them. And so they're very animated. Or maybe you notice that they're kind of looking off to the side or they're not quite as comfortable with the topics. Paying attention to the words that they use. Language is so powerful, and the words that people choose to use says a lot about where they're at and what they're thinking. You really want to engage with someone because you want to understand where they're coming from. Having that level of emotional intelligence helps you on so many levels, whether it's personal or professional. So that active listening skill is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I love how you brought up the body language because that's such a big part of it, right? Because if you're talking and you're always looking at your phone or looking for your phone or looking to see who else came in,
Yeah.
that's noticeable. So, what are a few common mistakes that you see? Things that people might think are helpful in a networking situation, but actually work against them.
I think that authenticity is really one of the biggest things. People are especially if you're nervous talking in front of people, you try to overcompensate with maybe big words or getting too in depth into something. I think that's another area where you pay attention to kind of where things are going with, if somebody isn't actively listening to you, then how do you kind of uh, capture their focus once again. But I think overselling yourself is sometimes, I mean, there's a difference between being confident and then being overselling yourself. I've taken marketing classes over the years, and they always tell you to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that you can't highlight your best features and kind of showcase your talents because that's what you're there for.
Mhm.
But don't ever say that you know something about. I mean, it's always better to ask a question, or honor that you haven't had that experience, especially if you're a young professional. Asking more questions about that. Admit that you don't. I haven't heard of that term before. Could you explain it to me? That opens up the conversation so much more than trying to fumble through of,
And pretend you know it, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
fake it until you
Um,
make it doesn't work here.
it usually doesn't, and most
Yeah.
people can see through it.
Mhm.
Um, and asking questions is always a good go-to. Um, Asking clarifying questions. I think that it continues the conversation and also helps you to learn so much more about where the folks are coming from.
Mhm. What if someone could just remember one rule for networking conversations? What should it be?
Be yourself. I think there's only one person like you in the world. We may have, as human beings, we all have similarities, we all have differences, but connecting with someone on that human level is what's really going to take you far. It's the people that I've come to have relationships with and learned from over the years that have really helped me get to where I am.
Well, that's really the key, isn't it? Really, and that's the point of networking. It's not necessarily that you're going to get a job from that networking event, but you're building relationships that grow over time, and you never know where it's going to lead, right?
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Patty. This has been really valuable, and I look forward to having you back so we can talk a little more about how to navigate a networking event without feeling awkward, because I'm sure a lot of people can identify with that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Deb.